What's up, guys? It's three-time NFL Pro Bowler, all-decade return specialist, Josh Cribbs. I want to welcome you to the College Sports Connection podcast, where Double A, Alex, and AJ host the Mid-American Conference Best.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the College Sports Connection podcast. I'm your host, Alex the Captain. Joining me, as always, it's AJ the Guru.
What's going on, everybody?
AJ, last week we had a great conversation talking about football with Coach Tim Lester. Now we're preparing for some MAC baseball. You want to tell us what today's show's about?
Yeah, absolutely. Tonight we welcome a member of the Toledo Rockets baseball team as a part-time left-handed pitcher and a part-time outfielder who appeared in 9 games for the Rockets in 2020. Appeared on 5 games as a position player and 4 as a pitcher, throwing 10 1/3 innings. On the mound, striking out 7 while making 3 starts. Out of Columbia, South Carolina, by way of Division II, Francis Marion University. Ladies and gentlemen, Nick Winterstein. Nick, what's going on, man?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me on here, guys.
Absolutely happy to have you on. Now, let's talk about transferring in. So we talked to Coach Lester last week about the transfer portal from a coach's perspective. What was that like for you as a player? Is that like being recruited out of high school all over again?
Yeah, so for me, it was a pretty unique situation. I came in as a graduate transfer. So I think it was actually maybe in the first summer, the portal was kind of like full go.
Okay.
I didn't have to worry about sitting out a year. I know in years past that used to be a big problem with transferring, but because I was a graduate transfer, I could transfer and not have to sit out a year. I could play right away. But yeah, recruiting wise, it was pretty much like high school all over again, kind of getting your name out there, letting people know, hey, like I'm in the portal, I'm trying to transfer, I'm looking for a new place to go, and then seeing where that took.
So what was the draw then to Toledo? I mean, South Carolina to Toledo. I mean, South Carolina's full of great baseball talent. You come up north of Toledo, Ohio, we've got the Mudhens, and that's and the Rockets. That's just about it baseball wise. So what drew you to UT?
The summer of 19, the Toledo hired a new baseball coach. He came in from an assistant at Western Kentucky, and he had recruited me pretty heavily out of high school. I got hurt a little bit in high school playing football and stuff like that. It never really panned out for me at that time frame, but we kind of kept in touch over the years. We knew once he got that job, he reached out to me because he had heard through the grapevine that I was trying to transfer, and we kind of reconnected that way. And we both kind of took a chance to move up north, Toledo, and try to turn this culture around.
So when you transferred in, I mean, obviously him being part of the program was a huge aspect. Did your brother being on the coaching staff, did that have a hand in that?
Him being here definitely had a hand in my decision to come here. It didn't have, I didn't piggyback off of him. I like to make it known to myself and anybody who asks that I came here on my own merits. I came here because I'm a talented baseball player, and I think I proved that when I showed up day one and worked as hard as I did to play every day. So
what is that like for you to have him on the coaching staff with you? You know, do you have to call him coach? Like, I mean, what's that dynamic like, knowing that you're not only a grad transfer, but that he's your older brother and, you know, you're one of the seniors, if you will. What's that dynamic like?
Yeah, for me and him, we grew up really close. We really we share a great love of sports, not only baseball, but football and everything else, where we've always shared that. And we both knew going into that it was going to be a different circumstance than what everybody was used to. And we were both took it very professionally. When we were on campus and we were at practice, he was coach and I was player. And when we left, we were brothers again, but we were both able to separate that really well. And
So when you were being recruited out of high school, was it more of as an outfielder, a pitcher, or was it kind of one of those things where a coach said, hey, you're an athlete, we're going to put you where we can?
Out of high school, it was mostly as an outfielder. I pitched a little bit in high school, just like pretty much everybody does. And I was left-handed, so I was able to be effective at the high school level. Once I got to college and I kind of figured out the way it works, is my pitching days were kind of that was all secondary. I could throw hard and I could throw strikes for the most part. And the situation where I was at my old school was I didn't get utilized very much there on the mound, but during the summers I'd go pitch and I'd put up good numbers. I'd get results, and that it was kind of attractive to coaches.
How fast can you throw?
Ooh. I mean, the highest I got up to when I was pitching every day, I was 87, 88, maybe an 89.
Okay.
Sure. So
My pitching days are over with. I pitched over the summer some, and then I came back this fall, and we brought in some newer arms and that kind of thing. So my pitching days are all but over.
Sure.
Coming into this year.
So I was a catcher. And so let's talk about that relationship between the pitcher and catcher, because it's kind of like in football, the center and a quarterback, and so I loved being a catcher. I think it's the best position on the field. You have a full view of everything. You kind of control the game. So from being from the mound, let's talk a little bit about that relationship.
Yeah, well, kind of like you said, it's kind of like the quarterback on the field where they're running everything. And yeah, the pitcher's the one throwing the ball, but the catcher can kind of guide him and make sure that he's doing the right things. A lot of times catchers are calling the game, so they have a better understanding of how to get the hitters out, what pitchers are good with each pitches, what's working for them that day. I mean, they'll be with them in the bullpen before the game. They'll see the movement, the type of stuff that their pitches have, and so they'll really be able to understand better than anybody else what the game plan is going to be and how to execute it.
So you mentioned you wrestled in high school. In doing our research, you actually won 2 individual state titles in wrestling in high school. You mentioned playing football as well. Why baseball? What was the draw to pursue baseball at the collegiate level versus the other 2 sports, and one in which you seem to really excel at?
Well, I fell in love with baseball when I was 3 years old. I mean, I had older brothers that played, so when I was even before I was old enough to play, I spent my springs and I spent my summers at the baseball field, going to working at different college camps and that kind of thing. I grew up going to College of Charleston's baseball camps,
Okay.
and back in the early to mid 2000s, they were the biggest mid-major program in all of baseball.
Mm-hmm.
They were one win away from going to the College World Series, and I think 2004 they lost to Matt Weeder's Georgia Tech team. He was their closer and their catcher.
Right.
So one of the guys on that Charleston team was Brett Gardner, who's everybody knows as the New York Yankee outfielder for the last 15 years now.
Sure.
So I really fell in love with that environment of college baseball, being able to see the ins and outs of it, and it's just something that I always wanted to pursue.
It's interesting, you talk baseball in South Carolina, Coastal kind of came out of nowhere over the past 5-7 years. Not only baseball, but football as well. Did you have any ties with them? Did you talk to them at all during your process?
Yeah, so the catcher from my high school team, he was a sophomore my senior year, I believe, and he actually plays at Coastal right now. I played with a kid a couple summers ago who just transferred into Coastal, and all those guys on that national championship team I grew up with. A couple of them. A couple of my brothers played with. They've got a really good program there. They've been really good for 25, 30 years now. I know when they won it in 2016, it was their first time in Omaha, but they had been a national seed. They had hosted super regionals all through the 2000s and the 2010. So anybody down south nobody was really surprised by seeing Coastal finally win a championship.
Sure. So let's switch gears. Let's talk about Toledo and obviously being a part of the Rockets program. Last year, you guys finished 23-33, but you did finish 21-19 in MAC play, finishing the top half of the MAC. And for a while, you guys were in line to compete to go win the outright regular season MAC championship. What's the attitude of the team knowing that the massive turnaround you guys have had since the 2019 4-21 season of MAC play? Like, what's that turnaround been like, and what's the attitude with the young guys as they're building forward for this season?
It's been really fun to come in and build this culture and then bring young guys in and kind of guide them as to what we want our program to be. The second to last weekend last year, we were at Northern. There was 6 games left in the season, and we still had a chance to win the conference. Mm-hmm. Our goal and our expectation is to win the conference this year, and that's what we're shooting for, and that's what we want to do. And it's taking it one day at a time, making sure we're taking care of our business, whether it's at practice or in the weight room, and knowing that it's a it's going to be a long journey, but if we take care of all the little things the right way, we're going to be in a good position come the end of the season.
Sure. We both know that there's really no off season when it comes to collegiate sports. So what does your off season look like? What your weight room, your fielding, your hitting, you hitting the cages? What are you doing?
Yeah. So in the fall, we were lifting 4 days a week. We were practicing, I think the second half of the fall, we were practicing, I think 5 or 6 days a week. We were practicing for 3 hours a day. We were going into the cages on our own, hitting extra, throwing extra, really getting after it, knowing that all that's going to pay off on the back end.
Mm-hmm.
All the hard work that we put into in the fall and all that was going to pay off and be beneficial towards us come springtime.
Sure. I think we're lucky in the sense of baseball. It's a lot of your doing work on your own. You can do a lot of it. And a lot of that, like you mentioned, a lot of that, hitting the cage and stuff like that, those extra swings, those extra reps become major in the spring. And, you have a couple of big games coming up this year, which we'll get into, but I got to talk about, you playing at Fifth Third Field. So I did my internship with the Mudhens back in 2013. And so I had a great experience there, and talk about a beautiful ballpark. Kind of talk, are you a fan? Do you go to Hens games? Obviously having played there and playing there again this year. What's that experience been like?
It was awesome. It's right up there with one of my favorite baseball moments of my whole career. We played Bowling Green last year on a Friday night. The weather ended up being perfect. I think it was the first sporting event or first event that like people in Toledo could go to with COVID restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
They had just started to relax those restrictions and that kind of thing. And they capped it at 2,500 for the stadium, and I'm pretty sure we sold all 2,500 tickets. Yeah. And being able to play in front of a really loud crowd that was into the game, playing against our rivals, and to win that game Friday night was an awesome experience for everybody involved.
Yeah, like having worked there, then I live in Fort Wayne now, so we have the Tin Caps, and I think Toledo has one of the best minor league ballparks I think in the country. It's incredible. And you got to experience the clubhouse and the underbelly of the stadium and the cage and the mound in there. But they've done such a phenomenal job with that field. And Alex and I were there a couple of weeks ago for Winterfest. Mm-hmm. I worked the original one back in 2013. No, had been 2014. Yeah. And just what they've done with that stadium and that whole area, just incredible.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's one of those things where guys go down there and go to a Mudhens game and experience it that way, or you drive by down the street and you see it. But there's something different and special about being able to walk out of the tunnel from the dugout and step onto the field with your cleats on, knowing that, hey, this stadium's for me tonight. This is our field. Everybody's coming here to watch us play. Sure. So it really kind of hit us in the face a little bit when we got there, and kind of we all showed up big-eyed, ready to just enjoy it.
Sure. And you think about too, a lot of the major league guys who've played on that field. Verlander threw on that mound when I was there. Ezekiel Carrera was in the outfield.
Max Scherzer has played there.
Yeah, Suarez. Bull Durham was the pitching or the batting coach when I was there. Leon Durham. So many cool people have come through that facility and made an impact not only in Toledo but the game of baseball. Mike Hessman, for example. Mm-hmm. I was there when he hit his record-breaking home run, and you would have thought God came into town because it was so big. And they did the trophy ceremony the following day. The commissioner of the league was there. I mean, it was one of the most packed times I've ever seen at that stadium. It was incredible.
He's the one who's got the all-time minor league home run record with his name out in left field.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
He played minor league ball for 20 years.
A career minor league guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
But being in the record books, I mean, that's pretty cool. I don't care who you are, just being in some kind of a record book. So I guess, obviously you guys are gearing up to play Bowling Green again at Fifth Third. Are you guys playing the full series there this year? I think last year was just one game, right?
Yeah, last year it was one game on a Friday night, and I believe the way they're doing it this year for Mudhens scheduling and reasons, I think it's going to be on a Tuesday night.
Okay.
I can try and pull up the date. I think it's May 10th, May 12th, something like that. Okay. It's going to be on a Tuesday night. Hopefully we can get a big crowd like last year and create that same environment. I think that'd be awesome.
Sure. I mean, I know AJ and I talked about it. We're actually planning on trying to be there for that game, to do some coverage and to obviously see some Mudhens hosting some action. We're really excited about that because we weren't there last year. We weren't able to make that work. So we're super, super pumped to be there and come see you guys clash on the field. That's going to be some exciting stuff.
Yeah, and I think it really could be something to help the entire conference kind of spread up here with baseball. Because I know hockey and football are big up here, and if we can continue to grow the game of baseball and get more people involved and get more people excited about MAC baseball, I think we can really grow this not just in Toledo but in other cities and get other schools involved doing a minor league.
Now, have you seen that growth in the MAC? Because I know, like Ball State, for example, they got a brand new field when I was there a couple years in, and Toledo has a nice facility. Have you seen that growth in the places you've been, the stadiums you've played? More and more fans coming every year.
Yeah, so it's been hard for me because I came in 2019, and that my first spring we got shut down before we could get into conference play. So last year was my first season playing a full MAC schedule. And some of the crowds that we got to play in front of were really good. I don't know how they compare to what they used to be in that regard.
So let's talk this year's schedule. You guys have quite a slate. You guys are playing a weird random game about a third of the way through the schedule at Ohio State. Do you know why that's not a series, or is why that's just a one-off? Like what's the story there? Because it looks like everything else on the schedule seems to be a series.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that got lined up. I know everybody, like a lot of times you play a weekend series, then you have midweek games. But starting last year, the MAC went to the 4-game conference weekend, which takes up a lot more games because we're only allowed to play 56. And so and I'm not sure how other schools are doing it, but the way we decided to do it was to line up our pitching to be ready to go for our conference weekends, those 4 games. And so I think we did a couple more of those, and even some of our non-conference weekends, we're doing a 4-game series to kind of line up and get us in the best position to play a 4-game weekend conference series.
So what goes into, you have a 4-game series, is your lineup, are they set game one? Or, I mean, you guys switching up everything day to day, depending on how the team's feeling, depending on who's on the mound, and, how early in the day do you find out, your batting order, or if you're, early in your career, if you're pitching or in the outfield?
Yeah, I know a lot of it's going to be day to day when it comes to the lineup. It's going to be against matchups that pitching wise, what kind of, if they're throwing a righty or a lefty, that's going to affect things. I know catchers, especially with these double headers on Saturdays, they're going to try and spread them out so they're not catching 4 games in a row on a weekend. Maybe they'll catch 1 game and DH the next. With me, my first year here is when I pitched. It was when I pitched and played outfield the most, and we'd kind of set it up like, hey, you're going to pitch on this day and then play the outfield the rest of the days. So I know, at least from our starting pitching standpoint, our weekend rotation is going to be set, but probably by that Tuesday or Wednesday. So everybody knows, at least starter wise, which day they're going to be throwing, and bullpen guys are going to be ready to roll each day.
Sure. So do you guys have a 4 or 5-man rotation? What are you looking at this year?
Pitching wise, I think it's going to be a 4-man rotation because we'll have our Friday night guy, and then we'll have 2 Saturday starters because those games on Saturdays are going to be 2 7-inning a doubleheader set up. So you got to have 2 starters ready to go then, and then you want a really good back end starter on Sunday to be able to close out a series, because a lot of our weekends are going to come down to whoever wins that Sunday is going to win the series. So it's going to be big for us to have a quality arm there.
Sure. Do you enjoy that Saturday doubleheader, 7 innings? Kind of growing up, that's how it was, right? Yeah. So it's kind of nice having that feeling as an adult playing at a big level.
It definitely brings you back to those childhood days of playing a weekend tournament and just spending all day at the field. I know, for our home games last year, I'd show up to the field at 7:30 in the morning and wouldn't leave until 7 o'clock at night. So we're there all day. We're playing 2 games. We're doing all that. And to me, it's fun because it's just, what else would you rather do?
Mm-hmm. So you have I think it's been every day that we've been interacting on Twitter, a sock of the day that you've been doing. Kind of talk about that and Is that something that you've always done before baseball season? Is that something you're doing this year? What's the story there? I got to know. You've got great socks, by the way.
Thank you. It's something that started randomly over the summer. So
Okay.
I spent the summer playing baseball out in South Dakota,
Mm.
playing in a collegiate league out there, and the town I was in was 30 minutes from Mount Rushmore, which was really cool to me. And I probably went there 3 or 4 or 5 times with different friends and stuff. And I think we were on the bus one day and I had a pair of Mount Rushmore socks on. I'm like, these are kind of cool. So I tweeted about it. I said, hey, these are the socks I'm wearing today. And I got 5 or 6 likes. I thought it was really cool. And I blew up off of that. I started wearing different fun socks every day. It probably lasted about 2 weeks, but because I didn't have my full arsenal of fun socks out there. I packed for summer baseball. I didn't pack for a fashion show. So I kind of dwindled away. And then a couple of weeks ago, before practice one day, I noticed I was wearing a random pair of fun socks. And I said, well, here we go. I'm going to start this again and see how long I can last. So it just kind of happened organically. It's going to be right before our season, and we'll see what happens once the season starts.
Do you have a favorite pair?
No.
Okay.
They're all special to me in their own way.
Okay. So do you have any NIL deals with any sock companies yet?
Not any sock, not sock companies yet. I'm working on some different stuff with that. I do have an NIL deal with a brand called Roosevelt's. RSVLTS is what their website is, and they make a whole lot of really cool button-up, like graphic shirts. A lot of them are based off of movies or TV shows.
I think I've seen those shirts. Yeah.
Yeah, and so they hook me up and send me a whole lot of stuff, and I get to wear it. During the fall, I got to go to some NFL games and some college football games, and I would always wear those shirts and get a lot of interaction from people asking where I got them from, where can they get them, and that kind of thing. So I've been fortunate to have something lined up like that.
Sure. How has the NIL impacted baseball? Because we always hear about the basketball players, the football players, etc. Has it made its way into baseball, and a lot of players getting I'm not going to say contracts, but contacted about endorsing things?
I mean, I'm sure it's different other places across the country. I haven't really seen it take off as much as it has from football and basketball up here yet. But I mean, even with football and basketball, it's still something that's so new to everybody that companies and brands are figuring out what works best for them. And then us as student athletes, we're trying to figure out what we're allowed to do through the NCAA. I mean, a lot of rules have been backed up a little bit, but there's still a lot of guidelines we got to follow. So we got to check those boxes and get connected with companies and that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, all that stuff comes secondary or heck, maybe even third in the list of priorities when it comes down to it.
Now, do those companies seek you out, or do you kind of seek them out? How does that work?
So a little bit of both. We have something through our athletic department called Open Doors that can let companies kind of send stuff out, and athletes can look up what they're kind of sending out and kind of get connected that way. Or you can kind of reach out on your own, kind of like what I did with Roosevelt's and kind of like how we connected. Just kind of word of mouth, getting connected on social media, that kind of stuff. So.
I'm really surprised Yark Automotive hasn't given everybody a car or a deal yet. With as much as they sponsor and that jingle, still. I mean, I'm from Bellevue, Ohio, originally, but I live in Indiana now. And I can still hear that jingle in my head because it's been the same for 25 years.
Yep.
So I'm really surprised not everybody has a car
yet. The Dave White Chevrolet that they play at every single Toledo football game that goes on. So.
Oh yeah.
Now with the NIL, like how do those contracts look? Are they like you do it for a 6-month period, a year period, or is it month to month, or are they all just kind of different?
They're all kind of different from what I've gathered from others and what I've experienced myself. It's going to differ between each company and each product, that kind of thing. I mean, I had something pop up where I posted a Instagram story the other day, and it was up there, and all I had to do was post that, and they sent me some money for that. So it can be a one-time thing, or it can be a recurring thing, like I have set up with the shirts that I get, or it can be a a full year contract. It's really open ended right now.
Gotcha.
We talked about, being from Columbia, South Carolina. This past summer, I spent a weekend at Lake Murray.
Okay.
So,
Yep. That's about 20 minutes from my house.
Talk
So
about an awesome area.
yeah.
We were down there for Memorial Day and just had a blast.
Yeah, that place is really fun. I've spent many summers up there. I've spent 4th of July parades up there, birthday parties. A couple years ago when that solar eclipse happened, I was actually out on Lake Murray,
Okay.
out in the water for that, and it was the most surreal experience. I mean, because it's like nighttime for when that happened, and all the birds started flying to their nest. All the water calmed. The fish were all out of whack, and it really just threw everything off. But it was really surreal to be out on a lake to be able to experience that.
Yeah, because my wife, her family has a place there, and so they were explaining to us there's an island out there with these purple something birds.
Martins on Bomb Island.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so they were giving us that whole spiel, and then you don't realize how big that lake actually is until you see like an aerial view.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's enormous. Like we grew up with a lot of lakes up here, and it's like, okay, this is a different level, but it's so much fun.
Oh yeah.
Now, the MAC tournament, I kind of want to talk about that for a second. Obviously canceled last year. Central Michigan went to the NCAA baseball tournament. That's back this year, right? We're getting the MAC tournament back.
Yes, it's back. I believe it's a different format than it used to be.
Okay.
From what I understand, the tournament used to be an 8-game bracket style tournament.
Mm-hmm.
What they're doing this year is they're doing a 4-team weekend, and it's going to be, I believe it's going to be set up very similar to the NCAA regional, where it's going to be the top 4 teams are in, the number 1 team hosts it, and it's going to be a double elimination winner take all conference championship.
So that's pretty cutthroat then.
So pretty cutthroat.
Okay.
Have you ever been out to Omaha to watch as a fan or anything?
I have. I actually got the chance to go out there 3 years in a row in 2010, 2011, 2012. And I got to see South Carolina win it the last year in Rosenblatt and then win it the first year in the new stadium. And that was a really cool experience for me. And it's something that I've always wanted to be able to go back to and experience as a player one day.
Sure. Yeah. That's a place on my bucket list to go to. I think it'd be so much fun to watch. The MAC is known for playing out of conference games. What are some of the cool out of conference stadiums you've played at?
My first year here, we traveled down to Birmingham and we played in the minor league park of the Birmingham Barons, which Michael Jordan played for during his baseball days. So that was a really cool stadium to play in. We got to play at Vanderbilt that same year.
Oh, cool.
In Nashville. That was a really cool experience.
That's a great stadium. I've been down there. I was down there this summer, got to see that, and it makes the football stadium look bad with how much money they put into that baseball facility.
And it's really unique the way it's set up to where it's kind of tucked into that corner behind, like underneath their football stadium.
Mm-hmm.
But the facilities they have there, their batting cages underneath the stadium, all that kind of stuff are really top notch. So
it's such a cool location too, being the opposite direction of Broadway, and like that whole Nashville scene, it's right there.
Mm-hmm.
And that'd be a fun place to play for sure.
Yeah, we're going back to Nashville next week to open our season. We're going to be playing Belmont, so we'll get down there and experience Nashville a little bit. Some of those guys will get to go down there for the first time. So
now, when you take these long trips, are you guys busing it? Are you getting on planes? How are you getting there?
Oh, we're busing. We'll spend. I haven't seen our itinerary yet for next week, but it'll probably be a 6 a.m. bus pulling out of the parking lot Thursday, and we'll drive down there. I think it's only 7 hours to Nashville from here. So that's not too bad in the grand scheme of things, but we'll go down there on a Thursday, practice Thursday night, play 3 days, and then hop on the bus Sunday night after that series and get back here early mornings and roll into class Monday morning.
Sure.
So
just like minor league baseball.
Just like minor league baseball, yeah.
So now are you guys are playing what, 3 series before you guys get into conference play? Belmont, High Point, and Elon, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So High Point and Elon are both down in Greensboro, North Carolina, which, fortunate for me, is only about 3 hours from my parents, so they're going to be able to get to come watch and all that kind of stuff. But
cool.
Doing some research, that's closer to 9 or 10 hours. So those are going to be some long bus rides.
Do you have any most memorable trips that you guys have done since you've been at Toledo? Any trips that stick out to you in particular? Like this was a great trip because of maybe not the play, but like just the camaraderie with the team, anything like that?
Yeah, the most fun bus trip we had it was a shorter one in comparison. We were coming back from Kent State last year, and we had just won in extras on Sunday to take that series, win 3 out of 4 on the road, which was huge for us at the time. We were rolling. Kent State's a historic powerhouse in this conference, and we were able to roll into there and win that series. And that was probably the most fun bus ride we had that season. So.
Yeah, I mean, a bus ride after a win, especially grinding it out. Those are the best.
Oh yeah, there's you can try to explain it to people, but if you've never been on a bus full of college players or some of your best friends, that kind of thing, you really don't know it until you're able to experience it.
Sure, you get your box lunch and you hop on and you go.
That's right.
So, which on your trips, you've taken, where are some of the best box foods you've had? Is there anybody who spoiled you with some good wings or some good burgers or anything like that?
So last year we traveled down to and played USC Upstate, and we got to have some good old South Carolina barbecue there. So Much treated us really well. We had pulled pork and we had brisket and we had collards and black-eyed peas and sweet tea. So that was heaven to me. I was a pig in a. I don't even know how that saying goes. I forgot it.
So are you a
pig in a slop.
There you go.
So are you a tomato-based guy or a vinegar sauce guy?
So growing up in South Carolina, it's all mustard based.
Yeah, more mustard, yeah.
So mustard based, it's I'm not sure how that is outside of South Carolina, but that's always big. I don't discriminate against barbecue. I like it all. So any of it and all of it, I will enjoy thoroughly.
Sure. Because I grew up with my dad. We did the professional barbecue tour. So we've traveled all over doing, barbecuing and big competitions, and we still do it on a smaller scale, but he has the Carolina vinegar sauce.
Mm-hmm.
And I love it. And so when I was down there, I grabbed some different ones to try. And I'm like you, though. I don't discriminate. I love the Kansas City. I love the mustard. I love the vinegar. To me, it all goes down the same way.
So you mentioned playing summer league baseball out in North Dakota. How does that work? Obviously, that's not minor league baseball. It's a completely separate league. How does that all work? Do they work with like the college coaches as well? What's the story there?
Yeah. So all over the country, there's collegiate summer leagues and stuff. And the way I got situated with that team, the Spearfish Sasquatch in South Dakota, which turned into my second home, our coach the previous fall asked me, I was like, hey, do you want to play summer ball? Do you want to go close to home? Do you want to stay up here? And I told him, I said, I want to go somewhere either really cool or somewhere exotic. And 2 or 3 days later, he comes up to me, he goes, hey, how about South Dakota up near Mount Rushmore? And I said, perfect, absolutely, sign me up. At the end of our spring season, I hopped in my car. I drove 19 hours by myself to get out there. I had a host family that I'd never met before I got out there. Stayed with them the whole summer, absolutely loved it. I actually went and visited them in December over Christmas break because of the connections I made with that team and the family and the town and everything. And it was really a great experience. I will say, anybody out there listening who plays college baseball and wants to go play summer ball, do it. Take the opportunity and see how far baseball can take you. Use it, go visit new places, try new things, get out of your comfort zone, because you really don't know what's out there until you experience it. And college summer ball is a great experience for everybody, and it can take you to wonderful places.
Sure. My uncle is in Perrysburg, and he is a umpire for college summer league, and he loves it. He's been doing it for years, but he's like, I will never give this up because it's so much fun to be a part of.
So you got to play with Chris Myers, who was drafted by Detroit last year. Talk about what a special kid he was to the program and the guys who are going to, I guess, attempt to fill the massive shoes he left behind in the program.
Yeah, so Chris and I are really good friends. He was a sophomore, I believe, when I came in, and we actually played against each other during summer ball before I came here. We didn't know each other at the time, but we ended up through conversations later that we found out we played against each other. extremely hard work ethic, quiet guy. He's going to keep his head down. He's going to grind. He does the right things. And I don't think anybody was surprised by the season he had last year and getting drafted and having that opportunity. He worked for everything he got, and his hard work paid off for him.
So you obviously are working with the program. You're a player, obviously, but you talk all the time about, working with Toledo Baseball and in the athletic department. What are your responsibilities as a grad transfer versus that of just a transfer who's still doing their undergrad? You're working on a master's degree, right?
I am. I'm getting an MBA degree with a focus of administration and a dual focus of leadership. So I'm getting kind of a dual major master's degree. I've been working for the athletic department in our event operations department since my time here. It happened organically, or I was looking for something to do in my spare time with baseball, and most of my schoolwork has been online. So I kind of fell into this place, and I've been working here the past 3 years, and I've really learned the ins and outs of the entire athletic department and what all kind of goes on throughout the year.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was a sports administration major at Ball State, and so I worked in the athletic office, did all those types of things, and did my internship with the Toledo, with the Mudhens and the Walleye. And it's incredible how small the athletic community is. Like, everybody knows somebody everywhere. Like, you can go to South Dakota or North Dakota, and there's still going to be somebody there who knows somebody at UT. It's incredible how small it is.
Yeah, it really is. And you mentioned that, and I'm pretty sure I ran into somebody. We were on the road over the summer in some town. I don't even remember where I was, and they're announcing like where the players are from, and they said University of Toledo. And then I had somebody come up to me after the game, be like, "Hey, I went there in 1977 or whatever it was. Go Rockets!" And I was like, "Yeah, go Rockets!" So it really is a small, close-knit community when it comes to college athletics.
Sure, especially with the Mid-American Conference, because we had Jared Pugsley on, who played football at Akron, played in the NFL for a little bit. Now he's a teacher in Kansas City, and we're like, "Does anybody know where Akron is?" And he goes, "I say that's where LeBron's from." And everybody's like, "Ah, got it, makes sense."
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, it is an extremely small community. But it helps out so much in the long run. Because like we had Coach Lester on last week, and it turns out his offensive tackle in college was my high school coach.
I listened to that podcast, and surprising him and having him on there. So that was really cool, and especially like you said, the Mid-American Conference, we're close, we're tight knit, and 10 years down the road, whether it's I'm from Toledo and somebody else went to Western Michigan or whatever, they're gonna have that same MAC experience that I did, and we're gonna be able to relate to that and know where we came from.
Absolutely. That was one of the big things I took from the interview too, was talking to them, about what the MAC meant to them. And they both said the people you meet, the connections, because it goes on forever. And it's so cool that the MAC has, it's become more of a nationwide brand. It used to, for so long, it was, growing up in South Carolina, I don't know if you ever heard of the Mid-American Conference, but now you do.
Mm-hmm. I think growing up, it was different, but once TV kind of got bigger and college football was bigger on TV, Tuesday night MACtion. Everybody all over the country watches MAC football because it's the only football on Tuesday and Wednesday nights. There's no NFL, there's no Power 5 football. It's everybody's tuning in from across the country to watch MAC football.
Sure.
It's funny you mentioned that. When I lived out in California, that was exactly what happened. I randomly turned on a TV, and I think it was a Wednesday night, and Kent State was playing Ohio in football, and people were like, "Who are these teams?" And I'm like, "No, leave it on. That's MACtion. Like, we're watching this." So no, I mean, you're very right. Having those TV spots for the midweek games is so critical for the brand and the recognition of the conference.
So are you guys getting, is BCSN covering your games? Are you playing on local TV in Toledo in the BG area?
So I know all of our games last year, they were either streamed through ESPN3 and then there were a couple weekends that BCSN picked them up. So whether you're close to Toledo or you're out in California, like you said, or back home in South Carolina where my parents are, they're able to tune in and watch every game and every at bat through whether it's ESPN or BCSN.
Now the uniforms, I think that's how we kind of interacted was the uniforms comment. The white with the old school UT logo looks clean. Do you have a favorite uniform you have or from seasons past, or a uniform that you're looking forward to wearing this season?
We're all definitely very excited for those new uniforms and debuting them. It's an old school logo, and a lot of alumni, a lot of people in the athletic department are excited to see that logo come back, and we're excited to represent it. We've got a handful of different uniforms. I really like the classic all whites. We've got a white button down that says Rockets across it. We've got some really clean looking road uniforms. We've got a button up all gray and a button up navy jersey that said Toledo across the chest. So I really like the way those look. Coach Rob's done a really good job of getting us hooked up and making sure we're not only playing good on the field, but we're looking good and feeling good while we do it. Because everybody knows you got to look good, feel good, play good.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, have you played it? I'm sure you have, but playing a game on turf, that took me a long time to figure out how to do. Are you a fan of it? I'm a classic. Give me red clay. I'm sure in South Carolina it's the same thing. Red clay. Let's stain these white jerseys up to the point they can't get the stains out.
Yep.
They brought baseball. They brought turf into it. I'm like, I don't know how I feel about it.
I'm really old school in the fact that I didn't play good unless my jersey's dirty.
Mm-hmm.
Even when I was 3 years old, I remember going home, and whenever mom made me get undressed in the garage instead of in the house, I knew it was a good day at the field. So I really enjoy playing on grass and dirt in field, being able to slide whenever I can, that kind of thing. I really enjoy. Now, coming up here in the north where it's cold and the weather's a little bit different, turf is really crucial. The game plays a little bit different on turf. It's a little bit faster. The ball skips different ways. So there's some schools in the conference that have turf and some that have natural fields. So we get a nice mixture of both.
Mm-hmm.
Now Toledo's natural, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So one of my last questions for you is any opponents you're looking forward to this year? Obviously, Bowling Green Toledo doing it at Fifth Third is going to be pretty special. But or is there any opponent from last year that you guys were so close to beating, or an opponent you're really looking forward to, beating again this year? Want to kind of elaborate on that?
Yeah, I'll say that every game is going to be important to us, and the most important one is going to be the next one. And right now we're looking at Belmont. I know. That being said, Central Michigan dogpiled on our field last year.
Mm.
They beat us to clinch the conference, and they dogpiled, and that left a lot of sour feelings for us. So we've used that as motivation, and we're looking forward to traveling up there to play them this year. We're going to be ready to roll. I think that's going to be a really good series. I think either 2 or 3 out of those 4 games were one-run games. So we played them really close. We were really competitive against them. And at the end of the day, the ball didn't land our way. But I know me personally and a lot of the other guys were really excited to compete against the number 1 team in our conference again and see how we do against them and see if we can beat them.
Sure. So are you more of a composite bat guy or the BB core?
I miss the composite days.
So did I.
I think I was in 7th grade when they switched to the new BB core bats. And not only does the ball travel further, it feels better. Just the sound of that old school ding, if people still remember, it just hits different.
Yeah.
Just hearing that sound travel through the air, it's just an old school memory.
It is. There's somebody posted a meme, I think it was either on Twitter or Facebook, of like the bats that we grew up with, the Omahas, the Black Stealth, the Easton. It's like
the orange Easton one.
Yeah.
Yep.
I remember just hearing that ting in my head every time, because I'm like, I remember that bat, because we all had a teammate who had it, and it was whatever bat was cool that year we used. And you're right, it had such a good feeling, and the ball came off the bat so hot at that point. Now BB cores, it's not, and it's a shame, but I understand it too.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Like we still have a couple of real old ones sitting around the cages and stuff. And there were a couple of times in the fall where it was later in the week, or we were out there hitting on our own, and we may or may not have grabbed those old composite bats and hit on the field and hurt them and watched how much further the balls went with those bats than they do with today's BB core bats. But like you said, everybody understands why the changes were made. a lot of player safety when involved in it and that kind of thing. But
Sure.
at the end of the day, it's just one of those things that the game evolves when we evolve with it.
Sure. Can you? How's your fungo game?
Not very good.
No, I can never do it either.
Pitchers are always way better at it.
Uh,
Pitchers like playing fungo golf all the time during
Mhm.
batting practice or during their downtime because they can only do so much. They can't throw 4 hours a day at practice. So
Right.
Sure.
a lot of pitchers enjoy playing fungo golf.
Sure. So do guys still like? We grew up playing, pepper and doing all that kind of stuff. Is that still a thing? Pre-game or in the season?
Pepper, two hands, quick hands, a lot of those just hand-eye coordination games. I know hacky sack's a big one too these days.
Okay.
Kind of get the hands and the feet involved.
Mhm.
I think a lot of it's just being loose, finding ways to relax before the game, not sit in the dugout with your arms folded against you and be worried about the moment. Just finding ways to stay loose, have fun, and enjoy the moment. I
Mhm.
think that's where a lot of those pregame games come
Sure.
from.
And it's just fun, and it's a competition too at the end. It's just oh, I'm better than you today. Well, I might be better than you tomorrow, type of thing.
That's
But,
right.
I get it. Pitchers though, they have time, so they better be good at it at least. Kind of like quarterbacks. They're good at everything, so it makes sense.
Well, Nick, my last question of the night, AJ, I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to tack on.
No, I know. Yeah, go ahead and ask. I know what you're going to ask. So, there's a good one
So
to know.
tell us what it means to you to be a Mid-American Conference athlete.
It means a lot to me. I didn't know much about the conference before I came into it, but the way that different athletes represent their schools, the way the MAC represents itself on a national spotlight really means a lot to be able to be a part of that and know that we've got some of the best football in the country. We've got some of the best basketball and baseball and all the other sports, soccer. Central Michigan went to Notre Dame and won 2 games in that regional. I know Buffalo's always been good in the NCAA basketball. The MAC has guys in the NFL all over the place. The guys in the Pro Bowl this year. Toledo has big time NFL guys. There's been, I think Ball State had a 1-1 draft pick out of baseball a couple of years ago, and so we might not be a Power 5 conference, but we compete with the Power 5s. We like to fly the flag, the pirate flag MAC logo whenever we be a Power 5 school, and hopefully we'll get a chance to do that this year in baseball. I know trying to think. We almost beat Notre Dame in football this year. I know there were a couple of baseball teams in the spring that won some big weekends last year, and being able to go toe to toe with those Power 5 schools, compete and beat them is a big deal for us, and it shows that we're right there with everybody else.
That's awesome.
It's a good way to end it.
Yeah. Well, Nick, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. AJ, I had a lot of fun with tonight's interview. Do you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, thank you for joining us. That was fun. We haven't really talked a whole lot of MAC baseball on here, but I'm sure we'll get up to a game, and like we talked about, we're hopefully doing BG UT at Fifth Third this year. I think it is a Tuesday night, so yeah, I think we're planning on coming up for that. That'll be a lot of fun. Back to my old stomping grounds, and really fun to watch.
Cool. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Continue to check out our website, the cscpodcast.com. We're going to be posting some new content up there real soon. Continue to follow us on all of our social media. We appreciate it. And guys, we will see you next week.